You know how you can get over a cold in like a week? But other viruses, think herpes or HIV, they seem to set up shop for life. It's a really interesting puzzle. Some of these microscopic invaders are just temporary guests, while others, well, they become permanent residents. So let's dive in and figure out exactly why that is. Right, so what's the deal? Why can't our incredibly sophisticated immune system hunt down every last trace of these things and just get rid of them? How do they pull off this incredible disappearing act inside our own bodies? The answer is an evolutionary story that's been millions of years in the making, and it reveals a truth about our own DNA that is, and I'm not exaggerating, genuinely shocking. Okay, get ready for this. A full 8% of the human genome it isn't human. It is the fossilized genetic code of ancient viruses that infected our ancestors millions and millions of years ago. We're not just talking about infections we carry. This stuff is literally part of the instruction manual that builds you and me. Now, to really put that 8% figure into perspective, think about this. The genes that actually code for all the proteins that make you, your eyes, your heart, your brain, that's only about 2% of your DNA. So the viral baggage we're all carrying around is 4 times larger than our own protein coding genes. It just goes to show how deep this relationship between us and viruses really is. It's kind of nuts. Okay, so to understand how a virus can become a permanent fixture, you have to get that it has this two-faced strategy. Think of it like a virus having 2 completely different lifestyles. One is loud and destructive, and the other one is, well, it's quiet and super stealthy. So on one hand, you've got the acute infection. This is the virus in full-on attack mode. It's hijacking our cells, turning them into little factories to just pump out millions of new virus particles. And a lot of the time, it destroys the cell in the process. This is when we feel sick, the fever, the coughing, the whole deal. But then, it can switch to a latent infection. Here, the virus goes completely dormant. It stops replicating, it barely produces any proteins, it just hangs out. And this stealth mode, it's the ultimate survival trick because it lets the virus hide from our immune system. But why did viruses even develop this ability to hide in the first place? I mean, why not just be in attack mode all the time? To answer that, we have to go back, and I mean way, way back, billions of years, to a time when being the absolute deadliest was actually the most successful strategy. So, there's this crucial idea in evolution called the virulence transmission trade-off. And it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. A virus that kills its host too quickly fails. It fails at evolution because it doesn't give itself enough time to spread. See, natural selection doesn't really reward violence. It rewards transmission. Being super deadly is only a good strategy if you can jump to the next victim almost instantly. And for the first 3 billion years of life on Earth, hosts didn't really move. They were mostly bacteria, all packed together in these slimy mats called biofilms. So for a virus living in that world, the next victim was literally glued to the one it just infected. Transmission was 100% guaranteed. So the virus could afford to be as lethal as possible, a strategy some scientists call rapacious parasitism. It could destroy its host in a flash because, hey, there was absolutely no downside. But then, everything changed. Hosts became mobile, they spread out, and eventually, around 450 million years ago, they evolved adaptive immunity. That's the amazing ability to remember and recognize an invader. All of a sudden, that old smash and grab strategy, it was an evolutionary dead end. To survive, viruses had to come up with a whole new playbook. They had to learn how to hide. And they came up with 2 pretty brilliant ways to do it. The first is to form something called an episome. The viral DNA basically just curls up into this little independent circle inside our cells, totally separate from our own DNA, and just chills out. The second strategy is way more invasive. It's integration. Here, the virus literally uses molecular scissors to cut into our DNA and paste its own genetic code right into our genome. So let's look at some real-world examples to make this clear. Herpes viruses, like the ones that cause cold sores or chickenpox, they use that episome strategy. They hide out as these little DNA circles inside our nerve cells, which is a great hiding spot because the immune system has very limited access there. Then you have retroviruses, like HIV. They use the integration strategy, splicing themselves directly into the DNA of our immune cells, of all places. That the end goal for both of these strategies is exactly the same: to create a reservoir. You can think of it as a safe house for the virus, right inside our bodies. It allows the virus to totally evade our immune defenses, lie low, and just wait for the perfect moment, like, say, when we're stressed out or our immune system is busy with something else, to reactivate and spread to the next person. It's a brilliant survival plan. Which brings us all the way back to that mind-bending fact from the beginning. What happens when that integration strategy goes one step further? What happens when a virus doesn't just hide inside our DNA, but becomes a permanent inherited part of it? This is really the final twist in this epic evolutionary arms race. You see, the ultimate victory for a virus isn't just a truce with its host, it's a complete merger. We call them endogenous retroviruses, or ERVs for short, and you can think of them as viral fossils. See, if a retrovirus just so happens to infect a germline cell, that's a sperm or an egg, its DNA doesn't just die with that person. No, it gets passed down through the generations, inherited just like the gene for blue eyes or brown hair. It literally stops being an infection and becomes a feature of the entire species. And this is the most astonishing part of the whole story. Over millions of years, evolution has repurposed some of this ancient viral machinery for absolutely critical human functions. For instance, a protein called Syncowintin-1, which is essential for forming the placenta that connects a mother to her fetus, that's derived from an ancient viral gene. And the ARC protein, which our brain cells use to form long-term memories, it's structured almost exactly like a retroviral shell. We are literally built from the spare parts of our oldest enemies. Okay, so you might be thinking, if evolution favors quieter viruses, why do things like Ebola still exist? And that's a great question. The short answer is they're accidents. Ebola is perfectly adapted to its natural host, which is probably bats, and in them, it likely causes a mild infection. But when it accidentally spills over into a human, it's like a clumsy tourist in a foreign country. It's applying a strategy meant for bat biology to our biology, and the results are catastrophic. It just hasn't had the millions of years it needs to adapt to us yet. And we've actually watched this kind of adaptation happen right before our eyes. Back in the 1950s, the myxoma virus was used to control rabbit populations in Australia, and it had an initial kill rate of 99.8%. But within just a decade, the virus had evolved. Milder strains that didn't kill their host so quickly allowed those rabbits to live longer and, you guessed it, spread the virus more effectively. The milder strains simply outcompeted the deadly ones. That's the virulence transmission trade-off playing out in real time. So all of this leaves us with a really profound question. We tend to think of viruses as these foreign invaders, as destroyers. But when you look at the deep, deep history written in our own DNA, you have to wonder, are they just our enemies? Or have they also been our silent partners all along, driving evolution forward and even providing the very tools that make us who we are? It's a fundamental reframing of our relationship with the invisible world both around us and inside us.